us for Super Bowl LVIII opening time!
That's right, you heard it from Bruce Buffer. Welcome to Sportszone. I'm your host, Trey Francis. Joined here to talk about that Super Bowl, I have John Phillips, Jacob Calhoun. John, going to start with you. This is a rematch, Super Bowl from 2020. Are we going to have that same result?
It's a rematch on paper with the two same teams, but this is a completely different matchup. This 49ers team is miles ahead of where they were in 2020. Brock Purdy, upgraded quarterback. Christian McCaffrey, upgraded running back. Deebo Samuel, upgrade over Emmanuel Sanders. This is just a completely different team. It's a different story this year.
And Jacob, what do you think? I mean, do you think they belong here? Is this going to be the same result as last time?
I think it's going to be a completely different result. You know, like he was saying, upgrades for the 49ers. Honestly, Chiefs have an entirely new receiving core. I think that they have no Tyreek Hill this year. They have no Sammy Watkins. You know, they're relying on Travis Kelce. Absolutely love the guy, but he's starting to kind of show his age in these recent games.
So guys, when the playoffs first started, John, I'm going to start with you. When these playoffs first started a couple weeks ago, did you think that these were the two teams that would be here?
I thought that the Chiefs had a chance. The Ravens, they were looking strong. I couldn't call it between those two, but the 49ers, absolutely. They were the dominant team all year. They blew out the Cowboys. They blew out every team they faced. It felt like this is a super team. I knew they were going to make it.
I mean, it's hard to root against the Chiefs in the AFC. I think that every matchup that they played, it was going to be close. Even fighting with the Ravens in the championship, you know, it was a battle, and they won it. They overcame Lamar Jackson, you know, and I think that the Niners were expected to be here, though.
Yeah, first of all, let's talk about that Niners and Lions game. The Lions had that big old lead, and the next thing you know, the Niners are going to the Super Bowl. So, Jacob, whenever you first saw the Lions were winning, what was going through your head?
I was honestly super excited. I think that the city of Detroit would have absolutely loved that, but as we know, the Niners just don't give up, and they kept fighting and came back and beat the Lions.
Yeah, and John, I'm going to go with you. I mean, we're going to talk about the Chiefs game. Chiefs versus the Ravens. I mean, low scoring, 17-10. Did you expect that?
Absolutely not. I don't understand what Todd Monken, the Ravens OC, was going for. They're a run-heavy team all year, and then there's 6 running attempts in the biggest game of the season. I don't understand the change in what they do there. So it was a tough game, and the Chiefs made it through with some luck.
Yeah, I think in both those games, I mean, the Lions, they battled, but ultimately couldn't come up. And like y'all said, the city of Detroit would have gone absolutely crazy. We know that because they have not seen that in so long.
The city of Detroit might have burned down.
Hopefully.
You're right. And then going over to that Chiefs game, 17-10, we thought high scoring, 2 high-powered offenses. I mean, this could be a shootout, 42-45. No, 17-10. So now going into the Super Bowl, I mean, we have the Chiefs and the 49ers. What are y'all thinking kind of score-wise? John, go ahead and give me your prediction on that.
I'm seeing around a 35-24 game with the 49ers win. I mean, I think that the Chiefs, they have Patrick Mahomes. They're going to score some points. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to be in the game late. But this 49ers team is just so much more talented than them. I don't really see how it stays within like a one-score game.
Yeah, John, Jacob, go ahead and give me your score prediction. Who do you think is going to be that MVP as well?
I think it's going to be 30-24 49ers. You know, and I also think that Christian McCaffrey absolutely just dominates the run game. I mean, looking at the Chiefs' defense, they have Chris Jones. That's really the biggest name that they got on defense.
Don't forget about L'Jarius Sneed.
My bad.
Great corner. He's been locking down receivers.
Yeah, but McCaffrey just has this run game to him that I think he'll just blow past Sneed.
Yeah, you're talking about the run game. Isaiah Pacheco, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, you guys said Christian McCaffrey for MVP. What are y'all thinking yards and touchdowns-wise when it comes to that?
I think that McCaffrey will have 2 touchdowns, and I'll say he has 100 yards rushing and probably about 75 receiving.
Okay. And, John, do you think that Isaiah Pacheco can break 100 yards?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Pacheco's a really hard runner, and I think he's going to give the 49ers defense some problems, but with the lack of receivers and pass game, I think he'll struggle a little bit, but still get above 100.
And what's that defense for the Niners going to have to do here if they want to stop this Chiefs offense? You see Patrick Mahomes, he gets in the pocket, he is all day, and he makes plays. I mean, can that defense stop him?
I think they absolutely can. The biggest weapon you have to worry about is Travis Kelce. And like you said, he's slowing down a little bit with age. But also, the 49ers defense is at its best over the middle of the field. This year, they had 17 picks in the middle of the field between the numbers. That's the most in the league. And that's where Travis Kelce's doing a lot of his operating. So I think that they're really matched up well with Travis Kelce. Fred Warner is going to take him out of the game.
And Jacob, back to you. I mean, Brock Purdy, quarterback for the Niners. I mean, he can make plays as well. You can't count him out of this one. What will it take for the Chiefs defense to stop the offense for the 49ers with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey?
I honestly can't think of one thing that the Chiefs need to do. I mean, obviously they've gotten here with their offense, and I mean, against the Ravens, they really showed that their defense can step up at times, but I don't think that they will step up against the Niners this time.
Yeah, John?
I think that the Chiefs have a really talented defense, but I saw someone compare the 49ers currently to the 2016 Warriors lineup of death, where no matter who was there, you couldn't stop them. And I think the 49ers have a similar thing. Deebo, Ayuk, Juszczyk, McCaffrey, there's so many things. And with
Can't forget about Kittle either.
Oh, and Kittle. I mean, with how much man coverage they play, you can't stop all those weapons. They're going to get open.
Yes, and I mean, you said they have all these weapons, but let's say you take Christian McCaffrey out of the game for the 49ers. Who else steps up? Who steps up next, I guess?
Honestly, I think that you have to turn to their defense for who steps up next. I think that the person to watch out for in this game is Chase Young. I think that he will make or break this 49ers defense. And if he steps up like he did when he was playing for the Commanders, I think that this defense will be unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, no, I definitely agree. And John, back to you real quick. So, I mean, the Niners, they have so many weapons. Can they use those weapons efficiently against the Chiefs defense that's played so well all year long?
I mean, yeah, Steve Spagnuolo has had this defense playing really well, but I don't think there's a defense in history that could make this 49ers offense stop working. I mean, there's just everyone on that offense is so talented. I don't think God himself could stop that team.
And what do you think, Jacob?
Honestly, I agree. I really don't think that anyone is stopping this Niners offense.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy, obviously, he's at the helm of it. He was Mr. Relevant a couple years ago, very last pick of the draft. Now he's at the Super Bowl. Did you guys think that this would happen? Last year, got injured against the Eagles, didn't quite make it to the dance, but now he's there. So what are your thoughts on that, John?
Those Iowa boys, they fight, they grind. Even if you sleep on them, they get through there. And I think Brock Purdy, no one expected this, but I think he is kind of underrated. He's kind of disrespected by the media. They act like he's getting carried by this elite offense, which he is partially, but he's a talented quarterback. I think probably a top 15 guy, top 10 guy. He makes plays. We saw him in the NFC Championship game and in the divisional round make some plays. He's a good quarterback.
I agree. I think that he has honestly proved himself. I've seen people that are like, oh, he's just a
system quarterback.
System quarterback. Yeah.
Okay.
He's just a system quarterback. I'm like, he's making the plays, but to get out of that system quarterback, he has made those bigger plays, and I think making those bigger plays and showing up on this stage will really prove himself.
Yes, and something we haven't touched on yet is the coaching. You got Andy Reid, one of the best coaches in the game, against Kyle Shanahan. These two guys going at it, it's going to be a battle. I mean, what do you think what do you think the coaches need to do in order to get the teams ready?
I think they just need to keep doing what they've been doing. I think these two coaches are maybe the greatest minds of our generation for sure and all time, and they have such different philosophies. Andy Reid is an improviser. He lets Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, he lets them create on the field, while Shanahan's more structured. That's why Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, these quarterbacks have all had success. So I think if they just keep doing it, it'll lead to a really interesting clash of styles, and they'll both play really great.
And Jacob?
I think that these two coaches are probably some of the best that we've seen in recent years. I mean, obviously Andy Reid has proven himself year after year after year after year, and I mean, taking the Chiefs year after year after year after year to the Super Bowl, to the championship.
It doesn't matter who's on the team.
It doesn't. No, it really doesn't matter who's on that team, whether it's Mahomes. I mean, we started to see his mind kind of like go out when they had Alex Smith even at quarterback leading the helm. But, God, just the 49ers head coach, I think that he is also brilliant, and the way that he has set up this 49ers team, I don't think that anyone's beating him right now.
Just to speak to how good these coaches are, this is the fourth rematch in Super Bowl history between two coaches. That just shows how difficult it is to have these two coaches stay at the top of their game for so long.
Yeah, it's definitely two great coaches across the league. I'll go ahead and give my opinion real quick. I'm going to go against you guys, unfortunately. Give me 34-24. I can't bet against Mahomes. I always do, and I seem to lose. So I will take Patrick Mahomes. They're going to win 34-24, and it's going to be one heck of a ball game. But stick around with us because we'll be coming up talking about the Dallas Stars.
Oh, Hector, it will be so hard for us to part, but we must.
But, my love, what did I do? I thought we were meant to be together forever.
I am so disheartened to say that you're just not in style anymore. But you will be to someone else in a better place.
You're gonna shred me?
No.
I'm donating you to one of the many clothing donation boxes available on campus. There is one in the Union by the Syndicate and one on Union Circle Drive.
Oh, well, why didn't you just say so? I'm gonna be someone's new shirt.
I thought you'd be more distressed.
Oh, absolutely not. It was cramped in your closet anyways.
Maybe you would like to be shredded after all.
All right, look up here. 1, 2, 3.
Mom, Dad, I got it.
You're right, Mom. I have.
Has the weight of stress and anxiety ever felt too heavy to overcome? Wish there was a safe place to confide in? Wish granted. At UNT, we offer counseling and testing services to students located on the 3rd floor of Chestnut Hall. UNT, we're here for you.
Now we're going to start talking about the Stars, and yes, I mean the Dallas Stars. Joined here to talk about the Stars with me, Austin Fernandez, Isaiah Ortiz. Austin, Stars, we're going to talk about those last two games, the Sabres and the Maple Leafs, 1-1 in those games. Did you expect that result out of those two games?
Yeah, to be honest, I was expecting a win against the Sabres, just below 500, and everybody knows those Leafs they're not the same type of Leaf as you see outside on the ground. They are real time. They are talented. Their offense is dynamic. They have an all-star captain leading their team. So, it would have been nice to have that win, but obviously we were missing Ottinger. So, I think a loss was to be expected.
Isaiah, they played the Leafs, Sabres. Let's talk about the Sabres real quick. I mean, the Stars beat them 2-1. Not a very high-scoring venture there.
Right.
Did you see that outcome coming?
I expected a little bit of a higher score for the Stars, especially when you're the better team, second in your division. But Jake Ottinger, I mean, what a game from him. The Sabres had a lot of shots attempted on Ottinger and only giving up 1 point. I think that's really good from the Stars, especially when you have an all-star caliber goalie in Ottinger. The defense, I think, needs to do a better job at not forcing those shots on goal, so the Stars do have a better chance at winning, but I think a win is a win at the end of the day.
I didn't mention, these are the first couple of games back from the All-Star break. Jake Ottinger was, of course, the Stars' only All-Star, and he played 2 great games. Played with Team Matthews, who on the Maple Leafs, and they came out victorious. Austin, touch on him. He had 8 saves. First game, kind of shaky, but second game, he really showed what he was made of.
I also thought he was big time. I think he deserved to be there, but there was also, some questions around it. He had some struggles with his health to begin the season, and then, he missed the second half of December, and he missed the first half of January, so about a month of play he missed out on. So, I think there was some questions about that, but, against the Sabres, we saw this dude's big time. So I think he deserved to be there, and I think he also plays very well at his position.
But do you think he was the only Dallas Star that should have been there? Do you think there should have been more, or do you think just him was fine or fair?
I think just him was fair. Like I said, he's just a generational talent right now, doing 47 saves in a game. We saw that after, I think those questions were answered. And, to me, there can only be so many positions on the field. There's only so many teams that you can pick from. So, I think that it was fair overall.
All right, Isaiah, I mean, Jake Ottinger had 47 saves. Was he the MVP of that game against the Sabres, or was there somebody else?
Oh, 100%. I think it has to be Jake Ottinger. I mean, you think about the defense, like I said, 16 shot attempts in the first period, 16 in the second period, and just still only giving up 1 goal. I think there is no question he was the MVP of that game.
And Austin, who showed up for the Sabres in that game? They had one goal, Tage Thompson. Was that their only guy? They had a couple other guys in there.
You know, I'm actually going to say that the Sabres goalie was, also a big impact in that game. It was a low-scoring game. It was 2-1, and, he doesn't really have the stats that Ottinger has in that game. He doesn't really have the workload that he had in that game. But if you just look at the eyeball test, the goaltending in that game was really well by both sides. And I think, excuse me if I butcher his name, but Luukkonen, I think he played really well. If you just watched the game, I thought it was a spectacular performance by both sides.
And Isaiah, who showed up for the Sabres, in your opinion, in that game?
Yeah, Tage Thompson, like you mentioned, had a really nice goal. I also want to give credit to, I don't want to butcher his name, Rasmus Dahlin. I hope I'm saying that right. I think he played a great defensive game, really stopping the Stars when they got into their goal opportunities.
Now let's talk about that goal that they allowed against the Sabres was a power play goal. And if anyone saw the game last night, I think every single goal was a power play goal. This Stars defense, they've been struggling a little bit. Austin, what do they need to do to pick this up?
They just need to take the workload off of their all-star caliber goalie. I mean, looking back at the Sabres, 48 shot attempts, 47 saves, and he had to take the night off against the Leafs because of that workload. It's kind of consequences of your own actions. The defense is starting to show some vulnerability, and now you're taking time away from your star player, and they just need to get it together. And I think you can look at, their penalty kill opportunities that they're giving up. And you also can't give up a goal in 20 seconds from the prior goal, and that really put the game on ice right there.
And Isaiah, I'm going to go, what did the Stars struggle? I mean, we know they've struggled with penalty kill the last couple games. I mean, but the offense, only scoring 2 goals against the Sabres, do you think that was more so the Sabres defense or more so the Stars offense kind of laying an egg a little bit?
Yeah, I do think the Stars offense do have to pick it up. You still have some really good players on the offensive end, and we know what they're capable of on offense, right? They've been contenders for years and years. When you have a guy like Jason Robinson leaving that crew, I do think they need to step it up on the offensive end and not put so much pressure on their defense to stop them. Even though they haven't been that great, giving up a lot of points these last couple of games, I do think when it's time to step up to the occasion, I think the offense needs to get it done.
And Austin, in that game against the Sabres, real quick last question, touch on the Sabres, we'll flip over to the Maple Leafs. I mean, what did the Stars do well in that game, from your opinion?
I would like to say defense because it looks like a low-scoring game, but it really wasn't because they allowed 48 shot attempts. So if I can look at individual performance, I just think Ottinger was big time. But, you still got to give credit to the offense. At the end of the day, they did outscore the Sabres. And so, we did say the offense needs to pick it up. But at the same time, you're going to have a slow start coming back from the All-Star. So I think individually Ottinger, but at the end of the day, like I said, the offense did get it done. So we'll say offense.
All right, now flipping over more of the Maple Leafs game. High-scoring game. Stars, they were in it for a while till the end and almost came back and scored. In your opinion, Austin, I'll go with you. What did the Stars do well in that game?
Well, I actually liked that their offense did pick up the pace. I mean, they did score 4 goals, and at the end of the day, we were tied 3-3 in the third period until eventually, the defense gave up 2 in 20 seconds. So, I like, Toronto has a really talented offense. Like I said, with an all-star captain and Austin Matthews, I think they were going stride for stride on them. They were matching them goal for goal until eventually they just kind of wore out at the end. But I really like the offense in that game for the Dallas Stars.
Isaiah, talk about the Stars offense from that game against the Leafs.
Yeah, they were really good. I think they did match. Like I mentioned, we need to see that even when the defense is lacking, the offense needs to match. And they did a good job up to a point, scoring 4 goals against a good, not great, but still good Maple Leafs team. So I don't think you can ask for much more from the offense from this particular game, but definitely when you're talking about going forward, the offense definitely needs to continue this good type of play.
And Austin, back to you. I mean, we know the penalty kill, it's been an issue now. What else do they need to work on besides that penalty kill?
Well, I just think that the defense might need to, it's making itself too vulnerable. And it's hard to look past the penalty kill issues because I feel like that's what they worked on so well last year, making that deep playoff run, and that's something that's going to have to fix in order to do so. But if their defense is not going to stop rearing that ugly head of defensive play, penalty kill issues, then the offense is going to have to pick up the pace, and there's going to have to be more bona fide scorers on that offense.
And real quick, let's touch on that Maple Leafs offense. I mean, they're talented. We've seen what they can do the past couple of seasons. Who was your guy on the offense that the Stars really had to look out for? But I guess they did not.
I mean, is there any other answer than Austin Matthews, arguably the best player in the league? He had some clutch goals and clutch assists down the stretch of that game and really was the impact player and why the Toronto Maple Leafs won that game.
And Austin, offense for you for the Leafs?
I actually do have a different answer, and that's William Nylander. Had 2 shots, 2 goals, and he was the one that had the goal after that 20 seconds. And like I said, really took the game away from the Stars and really made it kind of out of reach at that point, going up 2 with 8 minutes left. And, the Stars didn't score again until 1.5 minutes left in the game. So I really think that goal by Nylander was big time right there. And like I said, just kind of put the game out of reach for the Stars.
I agree with you, Austin. I had Nylander as well. And the Stars, next they play the Canadians. Do you think the Stars has what it takes to beat the Canadians? So I'll get answers from both of you.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a nice bounce-back game. Definitely after the All-Star break, like Austin mentioned, you just want to kind of bounce back, back to your groove, and I do think this is a good opportunity for the Stars to get back on track.
And Austin?
I definitely think so too about the bounce-back game. And, I think we're being kind of spoiled as Dallas Stars fans because they made that deep playoff run that they had last year. And, at the end of the day, they have the 4th, 5th tied best record in the National Hockey League. So, I think they're talented. They can definitely score. They can definitely defense. And I think they got it. They just need to recollect themselves.
All right, I guess we will see in their next game. But now we're going to skate off the ice and hop on the hardwood as we talk about the UNT men's basketball team. So don't go anywhere.
What does Talons do?
So I am the Vice President of External Relations for Talons. That means that I basically oversee all the external committees. Our external committees entail our Model A, it's a Mean Green Machine. So they bring it to football games especially, so every game it's kind of there, every home game. The Model A is like a symbol of UNC pride, and it's a big tradition that we are so lucky to uphold and maintain. When people look at it, they see it, and they're like, oh, that's the Mean Green Machine. There must be a game today or something to ramp up school spirit for basketball, softball, volleyball, any of those things. We have amazing teams, so we just want to show school spirit for them. Bonfire Committee, which is in charge of putting together the bonfire every year for homecoming. It's kind of just a whole semester-long process up until Build Week that we have to put together and oversee and make sure safety regulations are followed and risk management is taken care of. Cannon Crew, which oversees and takes care of the cannon. They fire it at games, they take it to special occasions.
Good evening, my name is Amanda Hasbell, and I'm joining you here today in the Union Parking Garage. Today we're going to be going over how to drive safely in the parking garage. Let's go see. Oh my God, this girl just got hit by a car. Let's go see what happened. Ma'am, are you okay? Are you okay?
Did you see that lady hit me with a car?
Yeah, we did. I got it all on video.
Oh my God.
Let's go over here and talk about how we can prevent that.
Yeah, not the hospital.
Well, right now we're going to ask you a couple questions on how we can drive safely in the parking lot. What are ways that we can be aware of our surroundings?
Oh, we can look both ways.
Jenna, also, how about putting the distractions away?
Yes, just like our phones, turning our music down, and also not focusing on our passengers.
Where can you get information on how to get a parking pass?
Transportation.unt.edu.
If you park in a garage, make sure you pay on the app or look for further instructions on how you should pay.
And remember, no pass, no park. Let's all try to keep our Mean Green community safe.
Remember, we're all in this together.
Drive safe.
Welcome back in the Sportszone. We are going to talk about the UNT men's basketball team, their struggles, and what they need to do going forward. And to talk about that here with me, I have Matthew Wagner and Jalen Bullock. Matthew, going to start with you. Let's talk about before this game against Tulsa. What was the struggles for this team?
I mean, it was so weird. You watch this team, they had a lot of good things that they've done, right? Their shooting was good at first. They're running the floor pretty well. But for some reason, they just stall out. They get into foul trouble. Some guys, Aaron Scott got into foul trouble, last game before Tulsa. And just for some reason, they just couldn't get going. I think that was the biggest issue for them going, through that game.
And Jalen, what were the problems that you saw?
Bouncing off that, I think the main thing is they're finally understanding the competitiveness of the American Athletic. It is a very deep conference from top to bottom. There are teams that could beat each other any day of the week. Of course, they had that 3-point loss against FAU, who was a Final Four team. A close game against UAB, who has had some credible wins, also against South Florida, another team who has had credible wins. So I don't really think it's them being in a slump, but really just the strength of the conference really showing as we go deeper in the season.
And Matthew, both Reuben Jones and C.J. Nolan injured. Was that a big factor? Or how big of a factor was that for this team?
Yeah, every time you lose some star players like that, it's a little tough, right? Those two guys are crucial, vital to this team. And when you lose guys, it's almost that next man up mentality that you got to have, right? Who's on the bench? Who can we use? And who can we utilize? I think that is what this team going forward needs to do, because losing those guys has not been helpful for this team.
Yeah, Jalen, talk about these injuries for this team.
I just feel like there are not enough players on the roster who are ready to perform when players go down, and that's going to be something they're going to have to work on going forward. Also with, I don't think only the injuries, but also like turnover struggles and also free throw shooting struggles. We'll go on to that more later, but just those factors really are contributing to this slump.
Yeah, injuries, they've been a big part of this. There's not much depth, like you said, Jalen, and that can be tough for a team. Now we're in the American Athletic. So, Matt, what would it take for us to get back to the top of that American Athletics? We were just there a few weeks ago, and now we're not.
I think you have to have some, like I said, we talked about the depth, right? They need to step up a little bit more. I know you said they're not ready for it, but that's kind of like what they have to do, right? It's not, not the one they want to do, but they have to do it, right? One guy that I'm going to really start looking for, I want to start looking at Matthew Stone, right? This guy really needs to step up. I know he's caught a lot of flack in the past, and we'll talk about him in the Tulsa game a little later on, but he needs to, he's got to step up a little bit more. He's been on this team for 3 years now. He needs to know that this is now his moment, and this is where he needs to shine when he comes in, especially with our guys being hurt.
And Jalen, what do you think?
So I think realistically the best that we could finish is going to be third. I think that South Florida and Florida Atlantic are just rolling on all cylinders. One team has a 7-game win streak, the other has an 8. And I just feel like third will be the best. As you spoke on, there are going to be players that are going to need to step up. Personally, I think Robert Allen's going to be one of those players that are going to need to step up going forward. But just realistically, I feel like they've checked out for the most part, and this is not a team that really wants to win the American Athletic, just wants to see how they compete in the American Athletic in year one.
I think I agree with you on that. I think the remaining schedule looks a little good for them right now, at least for right now. I think they can easily win out some games, right? Let these guys healthy, and then they can be back right where they need to be.
Yes, and guys, something we haven't really mentioned is, a paint presence. You don't really see that much with this team. And other teams, you see that across the conference against several other conferences. I mean, this paint game, it kind of slacks. Sissoko, not very many points over the last few games. Matt, I mean, is that going to be a factor, or should we just kind of ignore that?
No, it's a factor, right? Anytime you can establish yourself in the paint means your team is one of those tougher teams, right? We had that. We don't really have that with Moulay anymore. We did have it, but not anymore, unfortunately. He's a guy that when he gets backed off in the paint, he kind of backs down. Yeah. He needs to establish his presence early, use his body, use the strength that he has, because you see him, he has these flashes of like he dunks the ball, or he'll back off a player. It's what I want to see more of him doing. I feel like he's a little tentative when he does that, but because he gets in those foul troubles. I think if we can do that, this team can be a very better team.
Yeah. And Jalen, before this game that we just had against Tulsa, I mean, what players in your mind were stepping up for this team, really helping to carry this team along?
Jason Edwards, ladies and gentlemen. He is a player that's going to hear himself called on draft day coming this summer. He was a player that was a great pick, to replace Tyler Perry and the offense that he brought for us last season. He's a very, a shorter guard, but very lengthy, very athletic, could really do it all on the court. I just feel like he has been the player for this Mean Green team this season.
And Matt?
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to go with Aaron Scott, right? He's kind of the veteran leader that they've needed for this team, right? And he has been that for the last couple of games. Yes, there's times the stats really don't matter. It's more about how you handle yourself under pressure. And that game against UAB, they lost by but he still was competing out there. Yeah,
that's true.
He was a competitor, right? That's what you want. You want that leader that's a competitor for this team. He's a guy that I love watching every time I go to the games.
Yeah, now let's talk about Aaron Scott. Last night we saw him against Tulsa. He got his third double-double, 18 points, 10 rebounds. Can that continue, Matt?
Yeah, no, he has these flashes of like those stats are what he makes him such a dynamic player, because those double-doubles that he has are what this team needs to keep going forward, right? Yeah, he has you can't have these games where, he has one game where he fouls out and then he doesn't have that. He has a double-double the next game. If you can find that consistency through these stretches of these next few games, this team could easily be back on top of the American.
Yes, and he was my MVP of the game last night. Who was your MVP, Jalen, from last night?
He was also my MVP.
All right.
Just going on that shot 3 of 5 from the field. Just a classy performance from the kid.
You know, I'm going to go with an underrated guy. I know I already said Scott, but I'm going to go with a quick underrated guy. I'm going to go Matthew Stone because he has played a game. I know I gave him flack earlier, but he played a really good game. You know, 2 from 6 shooting, 2 for 4 from the 3. You know, 7 points, 3 rebounds, one assist. That's exactly all you need him to do. If he can do that, that's all you need him to do every game. That's it. That's all you need.
And the UNT men's team, they look like a completely new team from these last few games, Jalen, like you mentioned. And, I mean, if they just keep that up, you know, they'd be solid. But can they keep that up?
I think that they can keep that up. It's just really going to come down to consistency. We also got to spread the ball more. You know, only 8 assists last night against Tulsa. That's unacceptable. Shooting 60% from the free throw line, that's not something that we should be doing for a team that has high aspirations. So it's really just going to come down to the little things that end up, you know, resulting in
No, I agree 100%. I think that's always been a problem with UNT men's basketball, especially last year. We saw the free throw has been just abysmal, right? We haven't seen good free throw shooting in a good minute. And you know, obviously everyone harkens back to the days of Tyler Perry, right? Yeah. And how good he was, how clutch he was. You know, we have the clutch players. We have to. I think this team is to band together harder and just push through because they can. If they want it, they can get it.
You guys, we can't get away from this quick start that they had last night. They gave up the first bucket, and they come back, score 11 unanswered. So 11-2 start. I mean, that's a great start, Matt. Talk about this. That start for UNT, and we haven't seen that many games.
No, we have not, and I think that's such a thing is that run and gun offense, right, that Hodge loves. Usually he's a guy that likes to slow the game down, but because he's the architect of the defense, right? But I think we've seen more of him, that 11-0 run where he just pushes everyone down the court quick, and I love that from him because that shows that he's aggressive and he's willing to sacrifice that offense, you know, for more points. I love that. I absolutely love that for Hodge.
And Jalen, what do you think about us stepping on that gas and keeping the foot on the gas?
And as you spoke on, it was just a great shooting and offensive performance. You know, we shot 44% from the field, 43% from behind the arc, and we also forced 16 turnovers, which is really big, you know, down the stretch, and just really resulted in that big run that we had.
Well, let's talk about Reuben Jones for just a minute. He becomes the all-time winningest player in program history. Talk about the impact that he's had on this team, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it on and off the court, right? On the court, he's a leader. He's a guy that, you know, when you watch him, when he was hurt, you watch him on the side. He doesn't want to sit still. He's always talking. He's always telling the guys, hey, you're okay. You're going to be okay. And off the court, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and he's just such a nice guy but you still see that competitive fire in him, right? And there's a reason he's the winningest player on this team.
And Jalen?
He's a player who's, you know, been through the tough times, through the great times, who was there for the NIT championship, of course, last year, but is also a great leader going forward as we, you know, have NCAA tournament, you know, hopes this year. And just a great, you know, UNT legend, really, what it comes down to.
And the Mean Green, they did put a whooping on the Golden Hurricanes, but there's always some flaws whenever it comes to a big victory. Jalen, what were some of the things that UNT needs to work on going forward?
So as we spoke on earlier, just really moving the ball, you know, passing the ball, getting assists. You know, there was a lot of points that were scored off isolation movements, or just really, you know, playing our offense, playing our tempo. We are a quicker team, but I feel like at times we speed up too much, and then that results in some turnovers.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the turnover thing is factors, right? We have too many turnovers where we're making dumb passes, you know, we're not playing smart basketball. And if we can get back to our simple fundamental game where Hodge loves to do, this team could easily win 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the free throws. They missed 10 of them, going 15 for 25. If it was a close game, you know what everyone would have been saying. It was the free throws that killed us. Matt, I mean, 15 for 25, that's not very good.
No, it's not at all. I really hope they can get that fixed. If I'm Hodge, I'm keeping them at, 5 hours after practice. We're just going to shoot free throws all night.
And Jalen, real quick on the free throws, is that something they need to work on, or is it okay?
I think that is the main focus going forward at practice. Like, we're just sitting there for 30 minutes, you know, shooting free throws.
All right, well, hopefully the men's team can keep up the winning just like the NFC team did over at the Pro Bowl. So we'll be talking about that next, so stay with us.
Why should you join Talons?
We are very welcoming to people who may be a little bit hesitant. There's people currently right now in our organization who are in leadership positions who were hesitant before to join, and they found out that they just loved the organization and wanted to be a bigger part of it. They post about the football games, everything they're doing, all their events that they host.
What's the best part about Talons?
I would say meeting new people, because the university, while it's a kind of small campus in terms of like physical land, there's a ton of people here. And so getting to meet all these people who have so much school spirit and love for this university and wants to spread that to other people, it's kind of like a little miniature family that we're in.
That was a really really good movie.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, so we have to watch the next one before next class, right?
We do?
I think so, but it's not on Netflix and it's not on Hulu, so.
Man, I don't want to pay for that.
So what do we do?
You think there's a place we could go to get the movie?
I'm not sure, maybe?
Oh, there's a place to get the movie.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, it's right here on campus. Come on, I'll show you.
So a man's been walking in the desert for days at a time. He finally comes across a bar and orders a Coke.
That's not funny.
Eh?
Welcome back into Sports Zone. We're going to talk about the NFC beating the AFC in the Pro Bowl 64-59. And talking about that with me today, Mr. Anthony Council and Mr. Jalen Alexander. Jalen, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, when it comes to Pro Bowl, the lineups are stacked. But what did you think about the lineups for both sides?
To be honest, I thought the lineup was pretty solid, Trey. I thought Brandon Ayuk definitely got snubbed. But I thought that it was also crazy that the 49ers had 8 starters for the Pro Bowl, despite them making the Super Bowl. That was just crazy to me. I thought the NFC had the better team offensively. Of course, you had guys that made it like Kittle, Hurts, CeeDee. But you look at guys on the AFC, you got the DBs, you got Sauce, Ramsey, Surtain. It was just stacked both sides. I like the matchups and the lineups.
And Anthony, what did you think about these lineups?
I thought lineups were great. I mean, my favorite part was just the big men. I mean, the big men,
that's where it comes down to.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think the big men played a huge role, especially when you saw them, you know, catch the punts. I mean, you don't really see that a lot, especially in the NFL. But I thought the lineups were great from the AFC and the NFC side, especially from a quarterback standpoint. And I kind of just want to put a pin on Baker Mayfield. I mean, he really kind of resurrected his career.
The offensive MVP.
Yeah, exactly. Being a Pro Bowler, so.
So he was named the offensive MVP and defensive. We saw Demario Davis. But did you guys have a different one? Jalen, I'll start with you.
I'm going to stick with what they said. I think that Baker Mayfield was the offensive MVP for this team. He got 2 late touchdowns late in the fourth quarter, and it was just a really good performance by Baker, especially Demario Davis led the team in flag pulls, as you'd say. But I just think it was a really good game by both squads, both players.
And Anthony?
I mean, are you sure you want to say Baker? I mean, you know, Baker, he was flag pressing, you know, he was trying to block people from pulling his flag and stuff. So I mean, I don't know.
There's a couple questionable calls out there.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I would honestly say potential offensive rookie of the year, C.J. Stroud, just because. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, he passed that. He spun out of the defense. He threw a touchdown pass to Jamar Chase, and I saw on social media a lot of people were like, oh, snap, you know, it's Jamar Chase and CJ. It's like, no, bro's still there. But, yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud played phenomenal. He plays like he's a third-year pro. Spinning out of defense, throwing a lateral to Allen to Ingram, who threw that touchdown to Ingram. I think CJ Stroud has played a fantastic brand of football in the Pro Bowl.
Yes, and I kind of had, a couple players for offensive MVPs. I know there's only one, but for me, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, he had a great game, and Keenan Allen, you talked about him. I mean, it's great. It's easy to say a lot of them had great games because it scored 64-59. But Jalen, I'm gonna go with you. What players shocked you out there?
I was going to piggyback off that and say C.J. Stroud. I know that he's been good the whole year. I know the Pro Bowl isn't necessarily the most competitive thing in the league, but he's coming with a bunch of stars, being able to keep up. 18 out of 22 for passing. Just played a really good game. He threw that laser to Jamar Chase. You had that whole thing about, should Jamar Chase be with C.J. Stroud with all the things Jamar was saying. But I have another guy that shocked me, and he wasn't even a player. It was Dan Orlovsky. And having the best precision passing score out of all of the active quarterbacks was insane to me.
That was a very interesting one that I was not ready for. I'm going to have to go with Jalen Johnson on defense, breaking up that last pass. You guys talked about him. C.J. Stroud broke it up and sealed the deal for that NFC team. Real quick, let's talk about the Manning brothers. Eli against Peyton, his brother, you have this fierce competitiveness. Anthony, do you like it? You want this to continue how it's going?
I mean, it has to. I mean, back-to-back wins for Eli Manning. I mean, that's huge. I mean, Peyton's going to be furious all offseason. He's going to be so mad because Eli's just been kicking his butt time and time again. Not only with 2 Super Bowl wins, but also 2 Pro Bowl wins at the same time. And, it's like history's just repeating itself. But I love it. I mean, you can't get enough of the of the Mannings. I mean, they're beautiful entertainment altogether.
And that great Manning cast, too. Jalen, go ahead on the Mannings.
I loved it. I mean, it was probably the funniest thing ever whenever they lost the game and you saw Peyton Manning fall on all fours. You would see Peyton Manning just have the straightest look on his face whenever they'd be losing. But it was just, for me, I felt like it was a really good thing for the NFL. I definitely want this to keep on happening, too.
Obviously, they changed it a few years back. They went from, tackle football that wasn't even really tackle, that is now flag football. Do you guys like that? Anthony, I'm going to start with you.
It's not bad. It's not terrible. I think that having it as flag football, I think it helps because, I mean, you're not having players get injured. And, I mean, I think also, like, you're seeing their faces, for one. You're not having them wear helmets and stuff like that. I think it's cool. I think it can have a little bit of physicality. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think two-hand touch would be nice just to have if we don't do flags. But, I mean, I think there can be obvious improvements with the Pro Bowl altogether.
And Jalen?
From a fan perspective, I definitely think that I want the old format back as a fan perspective, just because it always seemed like a good thing. Like, you used to see Sean Taylor hit the crap out of people whenever he played. You used to see other players just tackle each other. It was just one of the greatest things growing up watching football. Then you get to like 2017, 2018, 2019. You're like, this isn't really the same. And that's whenever they started changing it. But I guess it's cool right now, but I definitely want to see tackling back.
Yes, it's been changing though. Year after year, they tweak it a little bit, but we also have these skills challenges. There's 9 of them out there, and I mean there's all sorts of them. What are some of y'all's favorites, Jalen?
I'm gonna go ahead with the precision passing just because Dan Orlovsky made me love it, and I'm also the biggest fan of tug of war. You had the 2 teams of all the linemen. Both of them actually weighed out to be 1,480 pounds, 1,480 pounds. And that was one of the craziest things, and the NFC ended up coming with the win in that one. But it was just honestly one of the greatest things I saw that Pro Bowl weekend, and just one of the things I hope to see in the future for real.
And Anthony, what were some of your favorites?
I mean, the gridiron gauntlet was
great.
That was crazy.
The ending to that was wild.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the AFC and the NFC, push the carts, and all you see is Jason Kelce just like, go, and they're just pushing it, and then they get the win. And the NFC, I mean, the NFC won multiple times. I mean, they're winning round after round. But I got to say, like, the one person who I would say is Miles Killebrew from the Steelers. He had 6 balls in his hand. I mean, he had to literally have 2 balls like this and have 1 ball in the middle, and then he was trying to catch it, and he missed it, but then again, the AFC already won that by then. But I think just the skill that they had, especially the punt returners, was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I like the dodgeball. The players get out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're throwing rockets. They're picking those balls up, and it is becoming a whole different ball game. But tug of war, we saw that. It went pretty quick. I don't know if many expected it to go that fast, but, I mean, it did. And lastly, you talked about the gauntlet. I mean, going all the way through it, and at the end, it's a sled push. It's Jason Kelce on there, rooting on his team. You see him all over, and he's going viral from there. But let's go ahead and talk about this best catch. We had David Njoku against Puka Nacua doing backflips and stuff, catching the ball. What do you guys think about that? Anthony, I'll start with you.
I mean, it's nothing new. We've seen it all season, and I think that, I mean, in my opinion, Njoku had the best catch, in my opinion. I mean, it was
I'd
obvious.
probably have to agree with that one.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing it all season from him, and so, I mean, it's nothing new from anything else, so.
And John, what do you think about these best catches? I think they dropped both of them, isn't that right?
I think so, but I definitely thought Njoku had the better catch too, just because we have seen it all season, but we've also seen stuff from Puka Nacua all season also. And just the way that Puka Nacua can actually grab onto the ball while getting hit and stuff like that too. But other than that, both of them had amazing catches. So.
Yeah, Puka's definitely found his way into that Rams roster, being a young guy, and now he's almost their number 1 guy. But the question is, he played for the NFC. Can the NFC go back and win next year? I mean, it's kind of early, still a year away, but can they go back and win, Jalen?
I'm going to say no. I got the AFC next year. I just think there's too much talent on the AFC team. I feel like they didn't get robbed out of it this year, but it came down to it, and they were only down by 5. And I think the AFC can definitely take that next year, especially with the talents coming back. You already know C.J. Stroud is going to come back with vengeance after Jalen Johnson broke up that pass to seal the game. I think the AFC gets it next year.
Anthony? Anthony's giving the confusing look.
They're going to three-peat. Three-peat. Calling it right now. They're going to three-peat. Like the NFC is like that. I mean, especially with Eli. It's Eli. I mean, he's been around this block a couple times. So I think the NFC is gonna three-peat, and it's just gonna be another sad story for Peyton Manning.
Yes, I gotta agree with you. It's gonna be another great one, and NFC will three-peat. So now we're gonna go from the skills challenge now to some skilled national teams as we talk about the FIFA World Cup.
Are you feeling okay? No, I've been feeling gross all week.
Maybe you should go get a COVID test.
But I already have all 3 of my shots.
Yeah, but you can still get it. I mean, maybe you should go get one just in case.
Yeah, you're right. We have that party and all that.
Yeah.
Where do we even get tested here?
Let me check.
You can find free COVID testing sites at the University Union, room 381 on weekdays, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on weekends, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., and at Chestnut Hall, room 120 from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. You have to show the QR code given to you when you arrive for an appointment. Tests take no longer than 10 minutes to complete. Results will be sent through text or email within the next 48 hours.
I got a negative COVID test. Me too. Oh my god, let's go to the party. Yes. Let's go.
Welcome back into Sports Zone. I'm your host, Trey Francis, and joined alongside me to talk about 2026 FIFA World Cup, Jose Moreno and Rohan Srinivasan. Guys, it was a big event last week. We saw, they announced where it's going to be, and you did not hear the name Dallas. Rohan, what were you thinking when you didn't hear the name Dallas?
I mean, the original report came out that it was going to be held in Dallas, but then now it's going to be held in New York. At least we get a semifinal, and I can tell you one thing, that semifinal is going to be as jam-packed, as electric as the final will be in New York.
And Jose, do you think Dallas got robbed, and with it being in New York, or New Jersey, I guess?
I think as a guy from Dallas, I have a bias in that. I do think Dallas got robbed. I think we're one of the most passionate soccer cities in America, a lot more passionate than New York City. But I think at the end of the day, it kind of came to, when you think of the United States of America, do you think of Dallas? No, right? Because every other city that's hosted the World Cup final, it's the city you think of when you think of that country. Moscow, Rio de Janeiro, Cape Town for South Africa. I think even Munich hosted the final for the World Cup in 2006. In 2002, you had Seoul and Tokyo host the finals and semifinals respectively. You gotta have the biggest country's city host the final, and I'm sorry, Dallas isn't that. And I love the city of Dallas, I really do. I grew up here, I've seen it grow. It's a huge Latin population as well, but imagine telling someone from Saudi Arabia you're gonna be going to Dallas. They're gonna be, where the heck is Dallas? They're gonna wanna rather go to New York City, to LA, to maybe even Cincinnati or Chicago,
Yes, and Rohan, you mentioned the semifinal being here. I mean, that's a big deal also. Yeah. What do you think that's going to mean for this area?
I mean, it's going to mean a lot. 80,000 people, actually 100,000 people with standing seats can be there. So I think it will mean a lot to this. I mean, if you really think about it, Dallas Cowboy fans, they all come in each game. So for soccer in general, you really look at 3 sports in America. This is just the start where soccer grows in this country. So I believe it's a really good thing. Yep.
And Jose, what are your thoughts on the semifinal? We'll talk about the other games that we got in a minute, but what are your thoughts on that semifinal game?
It's a participation trophy, to be honest with you. It really is. Like, I mean, here, you didn't get the final, but you'll get 9 games. Is that good? You know, it sucks because, you know, we heard, you and me, from Gina Miller, how much work goes into trying to become the World Cup final city and just how much our Dallas team worked their butts off to get everything from meetings to calls to actually it's going to be LA. Actually, never mind. It's going to be Las Vegas, to like the uncertainty of it all. It was so much work, but I really do feel like for all that work, it's like, well, you failed, but here we'll give you 9 to make up for it, you know? Just not the best feeling that we could have hosted it, but instead we kind of have the second place match, you know?
Yes, and Rohan?
5 group stage matches, 9 in total, 2 round of 32s, 1 round of 16, and a semifinal. I'd take that. I did want the final. I agree with you.
And we thought we were going to get the final, like you said. That rumor
right.
was
we
out.
Thought we were going to get the
final,
and that's why I think all the fans were like disappointed. But whenever you think of New York, he is right. You know, that's what you think of whenever you think of America first.
But besides it just being the name New York, what other reasons do you guys think that it went to New York instead of Dallas? Jose, I'll start with you.
Without a doubt, you got to think of public transportation. New York City has some of the best public transportation in the world. I mean, the subway's iconic, the train lines are great, taxis are everywhere. It's filled with Ubers compared to Arlington, in which there's no trains because they shut that down because they don't want to help poor people make money. And they also shut down a lot of the taxi lanes, a lot of the taxi companies in Dallas. Really, the only way for public transportation to really be useful would be Uber driving. That's it, because if you think about it, there's gonna be 100,000 people from all over the world, from all different sorts of backgrounds in Arlington, a city that is already kind of packed to the brim. It couldn't handle the World Series that well. What makes me think that it's gonna be able to handle 100K people for 9 games and a World Cup final as well, if we still got, you know, the lineup that we did right now? I just don't see it, you know. I don't see that Dallas could have had the infrastructure to really host this tournament in its full power. And the final needs to be perfect because everyone has to get there. That's the most important game, you know. One thing that Qatar got praised for was its transportation. Literally every stadium was like 50 miles apart. You could do a 1-day trip from one stadium to the other stadium within 2 hours. And that's really important when it comes to hosting a World Cup, is how can our fans who are staying in your country go from, you know, let's say you're going to be watching Germany. You're going to have to go to games in Kansas City. You're going to have to go to games in Orlando. You're going to have to go to games, you know, in Texas. You're going to go to games all over the country. That's a lot of flights, a lot of rented cars, a lot of money spent as compared to, you know, being in one country like South Africa, in which you can honestly do a drive from Cape Town all the way to the other cities.
Yes, and you had talked about that train system. Rohan, do you think maybe that's the only reason, or that they have better transportation than we do, or you think there's some other factors as well?
It definitely is. It definitely has to do with transportation, because whenever the initial report came out, everybody not from Dallas said, how are we going to get here? Public transportation is an issue. While the people of Dallas love that, and yes, 100,000 people can come and watch the game, it is a problem for people outside of Dallas to get there. New York has better transportation. Yeah, they just have way better ways of getting there than Dallas does.
And Rohan, you mentioned it a little bit ago, but those 9 matches that are going to come here, the most out of anybody. Talk about how's that going to help this area, the economy, and that sort of impact?
I mean, I believe the economic growth would be really good over here. 5 group stage matches. We also get a knockout round, so it'll be the same as hosting football season. Renovations need to be changed, obviously. But whenever you look at the bigger picture, it will be helped from our fans. Economic growth will be increased. And I think the semifinal is where it's at. That one game where you'll see everybody just come in, not even people who have watched soccer for maybe even the first time. They want to come in because they're in Dallas, and I'm sure that they'll have a great time.
No doubt, and you also have those watch parties, even if they're not there at the stadium, and people want to come and, you know, see the stadium, they want to be there, and they want to be close by. Jose, do you think that's going to bring in a lot of people as well?
I honestly think that one thing that Arlington does do great is have kind of an overall activity center around Arlington. I mean, if you can't go to the game, you can go to Six Flags, you can go to Hurricane Harbor, you can then go all these great restaurants and places to eat at. and that's going to be the really fun part, that to kind of see how Arlington comes up with ways to increase the fan activity and give the fans to do other things. Because let's be real, compared to the other cities, there's not much to do in Dallas other than spend money,
That is correct.
Go to the mall, go eat at a fancy steakhouse. There's nothing else. So, they're going to have to come up with a lot of ideas to keep these guys entertained, whether it be big parties, watch parties, little club meetings, or anything of the sort. I just can't wait for that. Another question is, how are the hotels going to do in Texas? I mean, the nearest hotel in AT&T Stadium, how far is it, Trey?
Well, they have the one right behind Texas Live, but that one will fill up very
Relatively
quickly,
fast,
especially
right?
with all those people that want to come over and spend that money. But once you get outside of that area, it does start kind of branching out. The good thing is, though, you mentioned it, the area has a lot of stuff to offer, a lot of places to eat. There are a lot of hotels. They're just not, super close by. Rohan, I mean, you can touch on that as well. There's a lot there. I mean, will that be enough for these fans, or will it make it too, clustered?
It would be a different story if we were talking about basketball and football fans, because we are from here and we know what to do. But this is the World Cup that we're talking about here. So I do agree that it will be harder for specific fans to go in and say, hey, what hotel we're going to stay at, how is the transportation, what food restaurants are nearby. I totally agree with that. But also, they might have the same issues with New York, except for the transportation. So everyone will have to adjust. I'm just happy that the World Cup is over here for other fans to get a chance to actually see what's going on.
And something we haven't talked about, Jose, you can touch on it real quick, is they have to do renovations to AT&T Stadium. And not too long after that, you have the Cowboys coming back to start the season. Is there going to be enough time in there? Because they got to do some construction.
I think, it'll be great. The only thing that you really have to kind of work on is taking the field out. Turf is not fun to play soccer in. Take it from a guy who played soccer in turf. The burns, the torn ACLs. I didn't tear my ACL, God bless, but the torn ACLs were just not worth it. So I think a lot of that renovation is taking out that turf, putting in natural grass, as well as kind of opening up seating a bit. I don't think it's going to be affecting the football season. You've worked with the organization. Dallas Cowboys has some of the best cleanup and setup crews in history. I mean,
Correct.
The fact that WrestleMania happened the same week as a huge concert and they got it all done 2 days, this huge building that they built, WrestleMania, and they just took it down under 5 hours. These guys are incredible at their job, so I don't think it'll be that much of a situation.
And Rohan, real quick, these renovations, I mean, they're going to have to raise the field up a little bit. Is there going to be enough time there? Is everything going to work out like it should?
Absolutely, I think it will. One thing I know about AT&T Stadium in Dallas in general, the renovations are really quick. They're up and about with everything. So I don't see any changes in there or any problems. The one thing that we need to look at is basically the field, the stadium in general. How can we fit this X amount of people? And so, take it from there.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see here in just a couple of years. But that does it for us. Thank you so much for joining us on Sportszone today. Make sure to follow us on social media, NTTV_sports, and we will see you back here next week at 5 o'clock.
Viva Mexico.